Welcome to the February 2025 Hero Studio card kit of the month called Tulips. Let's take a closer look at all that's included in this month's kit. First up is this 6x8 Tulip Heroscape clear stamp set. The 4 layering stamps in this stamp set build a beautiful and dimensional tulip scene. The Tulip Heroscape comes with 7 coordinating dies that not only cut out the layered tulips, but also cut out the images and the 2 large sentiments included in the stamp set. Also included in this card kit is a 4x6 message stamp set. This stamp set also has coordinating dies that die cut out the images as well as the large sentiments in the set. Next up, we have 4 word fancy dies with frame cuts. Use the frame cuts to cut a shadow layer, then place your word die cut on top for a dramatic sentiment. For your backgrounds, use the included Circling Clouds cling stamp for a unique and dramatic sky. Last and certainly not least, there are 4 ink cubes also included in this kit. The colors included are Thistle, Moss, Azalea, and Blue Raspberry. Now that we've seen everything included in the kit, let's create a card. We're going to start with the Tulip Heroscape and stamp the tulip scene. Starting off with the base layer for the leaves and stems, I'm going to place it over some white cardstock and then pick it up with my Misty. Then I will ink it up with the moss ink, which was included in the kit, and stamp it. Now that we have that base layer stamped, we'll then grab the detail layer for the leaves and stems, position that over what we've already stamped, which is actually very easy to do, pick it up with our Misty, and then I'll ink it up with the blue raspberry ink. I will stamp it several times, and it actually creates a kind of deep green when it's stamped over that moss. Now we're moving on to the tulips, starting with this base layer. Position that, and again, very easy to line up. Pick it up with my Misty, and then I'll ink it and stamp it in the Thistle ink included in the kit. Once that's stamped, we'll then grab the detail layer for the tulips, position that, and then pick that up with our Misty. And for this, we're going to use the final ink color, which was included, Azalea. And we'll actually create a second tulip scene, but this is our first one here. It looks really pretty with the purple flowers and kind of the pink accent, but we will flip-flop the colors for our second tulip scene. Now that this first scene is all stamped, we'll go ahead and die cut it out with the coordinating die. You can see here that the die does not cut the bottom, so we will actually snip the remaining pieces of cardstock where it's connected and then trim that bottom off with our paper trimmer later. Now we're moving ahead to our second tulip scene. I've already stamped the leaves and stems. I did cut that out because it's exactly the same as our first tulip scene. Now for the petals or the flowers, for the base layer, I'm going to ink them up this time in the azalea, so the pink this time. And then for the detail layer, I will use the thistle for that, so the purple for the detail layer. And what this does is just create pink tulips this time, and I love that we get 2 different looks with the same combo of inks. So next I went ahead and die cut that second tulip scene out, and of course trimmed the bottom off of both of them, so we have our tulip layers done. Now we're going to move on to our sentiment and a couple additional images. I've grabbed the thank you from the stamp set as well as a couple butterflies. I'm going to ink them up and stamp them onto white cardstock. I'm using Hero Art's intensified black ink because I plan to do a little bit of Copic coloring on the butterflies, and the intensified black ink is a alcohol marker friendly ink. I'm going to color these butterflies in pinks and purples that are similar to the thistle and azalea, the colors that we used for the tulips. Because the butterflies are so small, I'm only using 2 markers or 2 colors for each one. A pink for the pink butterfly, purple for the purple, and then RV34, a dark, to kind of create a little gradation. Next, I'll finish with these butterflies by adding some white spots with a white gel pen. I just like the little accents. I think it adds a lot to the look. And once I finish with that, we're ready to move on to our background. I have the Circling Cloud cling stamp here from the kit. I've removed the foam pad from in my Misty, and I'm going to place down some tape and to hold down and in place an A2 panel of white cardstock. Next, I'll ink up the stamp in Arctic Core ink, which is a beautiful light pool. Stamp the panel a couple of times to create this beautiful swirling sky background. With the background complete, I'll then pop it into my MISTI along with all the die cuts to help me figure out the placement of this sub-sentiment. I'll then ink up the sub-sentiment in black ink and stamp it onto the panel. Next, we're kind of ready to start pulling everything together. I'm going to start by adhering our 2 tulip scenes together. I will offset them so they have a little bit more depth that way, but because I've offset them, I have this little gap of cardstock, so I will cut a strip here and adhere it to the bottom back side, and that will just balance out so it lays nice and flat on my panel. I'll add liquid glue to the back side of our 2 tulips and then adhere it to the panel. Off camera, I'm going to go ahead and cut all 4 sides of that panel down just a little bit, so when we adhere it to the card base, which is what we're doing right now, we'll have a very small border of white cardstock. Once that's adhered to the card front, I'll finish the card by adhering our sentiment along with both of the butterflies with a little bit of foam adhesive so they're nice and dimensional and popping away from that background. And that will actually complete the card. I'll go ahead and hold up to the camera so you can get a good look. I love how bright and colorful this is, very cheery, and I think a perfect card to welcome in spring. Thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait to see your creations.